Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about Deadpool 3. Obviously, just more so about like the fact of the matter. It's just, just randomly pitching out ideas about, what Deadpool 3 is or could be, just some like interesting thoughts. And obviously this is actually inspired by because I was watching SJU on, Fandom Entertainment, because obviously they talked about that like a week or two ago. And Joe, had actually came up, I thought was kind of an interesting pitch he had thrown out there about how you approach Deadpool 3. And I'd even commented on it and even kind of took that idea and kind of ran a little bit with it. So I just, want to kind of, elaborate on some of the stuff I wrote a comment on. But Joe's basically, to give credit, Joe's idea was basically to pitch it as obviously this is Deadpool now being a part of Disney, and after the whole Fox situation, Fox and Disney merger, well, 20th Century Fox merger. And so it was about Deadpool trying to find his place in the world. And to me, I ran with that because I was like, that's such an interesting, you could do so much with that. Because obviously I talked about how, if you remember correctly, with Deadpool 1, they pitched it as a lot of the movie posters and stuff like that, even some of the trailers and stuff like that, pitched the movie as a bit of a romance movie, a romance comedy, which it technically is in many different regards. Obviously, that's the thing about Deadpool. You can break the fourth wall and you can do a lot of funny promotional stuff. And my thought was taking Joe's idea and running with it. You could build the movie around that idea of Deadpool trying to find his way in the world. You can even do promotional material and trailers, kind of structure them around that. Because my idea was to basically say you take the fact is that Deadpool's in this position where, because obviously he breaks the fourth wall. I was like, wait a minute, whoa, there was the Disney and Fox deal, and what does this mean for me? Where do I go? The fact of the matter is, X-Men and mutants don't exist in this universe, but that old universe is dead, and they could crack jokes about it and obviously make a whole point. But I actually talked about it. You could almost make this a earnest and heartfelt drama by not necessarily a coming of age story, but discovering a journey of self-discovery, because you're who am I now? You could get very introspective about it. Like I said, the movie doesn't necessarily have to be this. I mean, it'd be interesting, but they could lean into this with trailers and promotional material. But I thought that actually be I commented that I think that'd be so dope to lean into it's oh, here I am torn between these two universes, one that's continuing and then one that's not, but also this one's PG-13 but I'm not, I'm R-rated, can I fit in? And maybe him trying to fit in oh, and anytime he cuts, he's no, they had to bleep that out. He's no, I can't do this. Cause what the whole thing about PG-13 is you have one fuck, I don't know how the rating situation works 100%, but I remember hearing that from someone in a PG-13 you can get away with one fuck. The word, so I'm curious, obviously they can play into that, but like I said, it could be this heartfelt journey, especially if we're continuing where Deadpool 2 left off. I mean, especially because obviously him going back in time and screwing with stuff, obviously the whole Ryan Reynolds and, Green Lantern joke and everything. So I'm curious to see how they would kind of continue that. But if they also wanted to play into that whole angle, like I said, you can make that a very heartfelt story, because I talked about it and I've heard other people talk about it. Deadpool's actually the first Deadpool is actually really good romantic comedy. It's actually one of those things where you're oh, you're actually invested in him and Vanessa's relationship, that you could definitely I just think that's, so you could definitely make this that, almost make this, obviously jokingly, but you could make it this very, dramatic tale of self-discovery, and that could be, the whole, shenanigans of him trying to figure himself out, in the universe, obviously they could probably play with it, oh, here I am, like he did in, 2, the whole thing about, well, I think he did it in 1 as well. No, it was definitely just in 2, where it's you cut him into scenes where it's because I think there was a scene where the X-Men were in a room, and then I think it was Beast closing the door, but it was a scene from a different movie. You could definitely play into that, I think. Because it's also going to be the thing of wait, can we even use any of that footage? I mean, it's yeah, it's all under the same umbrella. Will we actually have to pay to use that footage, or will we be able to get away, because there's so much you could do with Deadpool. Because you can even be you could even play into the idea of holy crap, this is actually kind of pulling from this. There's an episode of the Amazing World of Gumball where, like, obviously, like, as the episode progresses, like everything's in. I forgot what the circumstances were, because I think it's like Gumball's dad has a job and basically the entire world is collapsing because of it. And basically the show goes, like, it gets all weird and, like, obviously, like, the world is falling apart. But at one point the show gets cheaper and cheaper. Like, it's like at one point you're looking at, like, sketches of what the show is, and then it card cuts to, like, stick figures of the whole thing. But like, you could definitely lean into that, being like, oh, this didn't look good. It's like, well, we ran out of budget. We thought we were going to do this, but that would have been too expensive. It actually kind of reminds me too, I'm going on a huge tangent, it reminds me of the Little Dicky song, God, Save That Money. Like, you could lean into something like that for a Deadpool and stuff like that. Especially because I'd read somewhere, like, this is not confirmed, it was just I randomly came across something, I didn't even read too much into it, that was suggesting that they are doing the whole thing of, like, obviously putting this under, like, a banner of it being part of the MCU while also not being a Marvel Studios release. You know, it might have Marvel in front of it, but it might not have Marvel Studios, but it's like, because they are making, you know, supposedly, you know, they are making Deadpool 3 R-rated. So just a lot of stuff you can kind of, you know, lean into. Because obviously, like, I'm not well versed in the comic book, but there is the comic book run of, like, Deadpool kills the Marvel universe. You can lean into that being like, oh, I killed the X-Men universe, and maybe even him gloating like, I'm the only one that survived, ha ha ha. You got all these big name actors and I'm the one that's still here. The merc with the mouth and with the ugly face like this, I'm still here. Look at all these gorgeous people that were in the X-Men movies, but look who's still here. Me. Like, there's so much you could do with that, and I think that'd be such an interesting thing. Like I said, I'm not saying like, oh my god, my ideas are so genius and so great, only I can think of it. It's like, no. I'm just pitching ideas that I think would be fun for a Deadpool, you know, movie or whatever. Like, you could definitely lean into. I mean, especially with what Deadpool is too, you could also lean into, like, if you wanted to, I mean, you could do a genre shifting, like, you can make certain parts of it, like, film noir, you can make some of it animated, like, there's just, the world is your oyster type of situation with a character like Deadpool, with a world like that, especially with the circumstances he's in, you know, being part of the Marvel universe while not being a part of it. Like, there's so much you could do with it. So, like I said, I just wanted to make this video, because like I said, I commented this, but I just wanted to kind of elaborate a little bit more, because I, you know, once again, giving mad props to Joe Sar, because, like, all this started because he had thrown out that idea of, like, you know, Deadpool finding himself in the world, and it's like, I just kind of took that in my head and was like, oh, let's run with that premise. Like, if you took that as, like, the core premise and just kind of ran with it, what that potentially could look like. So, you know, this was just stuff that was kind of in my head, you know, so I just wanted to kind of talk about it in a video, that's all. I'd love to get to know your thoughts about it. Do you like some of the stuff I pitched out there, you know, for a Deadpool 3, or, you know, maybe it doesn't even have to necessarily be Deadpool. Some of that could be Deadpool 3, but other stuff could be, you know, later stuff with Deadpool later on. What are some of your ideas, like what you would want, especially if you're more well-versed in comic books? There's probably some comic books that you're like, I would want them to adapt this storyline or this when it came to Deadpool. Or are you someone that's like, I don't care what you do, you know, as long as they do the character justice and continue what they've done before? Because I've heard plenty of people who, like, I like 1, don't like 2. I'm someone who really liked 1 and really liked 2 as well, but I know I'm kind of, I've heard mainly people being, like, very meh on 2 when it came to some of the humor. I really enjoyed it, but, you know, that's just me. I tend to enjoy a lot of stuff that people might not generally enjoy. But regardless, I'd love to know your thoughts about, well, all things Deadpool related in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.